Guys, welcome to my notes for today. We are going to talk about fungi because we've just finished our section on protists. So we are moving on to kingdom fungi. And just to kind of start at the very beginning, I did not put it in your notes, I'm sorry, but this is why I did have you do a discussion on it today, and why I also encourage you to read pages 142 through 149 and just finish the rest of this chapter. But in your discussion today, you were supposed to mention one of the types of fungus. Your book mentions 5 different classification groups when we do talk about fungi. So just a little bit of an interesting fact before I get there. I did not realize, a while ago that the major difference between your white mushrooms and your portobello mushrooms are just the color because they're grouped in the same category. If you've ever gone to the store or if you get a chance, when things start lifting up a little bit, look at the price difference between your portobello mushrooms and your white mushrooms. There is a difference, which is kind of crazy. Actually, I do think the portobello ones taste a little bit better, but apparently there's no huge difference there. Anyways, moving on to classifying them. Open up your books to page 142 and 143 because I'm just going to list and go over some of the, just very briefly, for those that didn't finish their discussion today, for those that want to go back and just look over it because maybe you want to keep updated with this chapter. But if you're looking at page 142 and we start with the classification of the fungi, the first one I want to talk to you about is the sac fungi, okay? Because their spores are produced in these sac-like little structures, this is how they get their name. And if you're looking at the picture, you can kind of see what it looks like. But did you know that sac fungus is what was used in penicillin? It's also, if you've ever made toast, then the yeast that's used for that bread is a type of sac fungus, which is kind of gross. Then you have your club fungi. If you think of a mushroom and you know it's labeled as a fungi, this is the type of group where it would be classified under the club fungi. Not just mushrooms, but some of you have already mentioned in your discussion today as well. You can have puffballs and shelf fungi are included in here as well. I've actually never seen this scarlet cups in person. Maybe some of you have. I do hear that they are beautiful though. If you have, let me know. It'd be kind of cool. Then you have your zygote fungi. How many of you have ever gone to the refrigerator, or I keep my bread in the refrigerator just because Mr. Stickles grew up that way, but or in the pantry or wherever, and you've gotten the bread and you're like, oh no, you see that nasty green black mold on there? That is zygote fungi, which is really gross. But anyways, you've had a close encounter with black bread mold. That is your zygote fungi. Your chytrid fungi produces spores in it's like a pot structure. It looks like a pot shaped. These are known to kill types of frogs throughout the years. However, though, they're important because they are decomposers, which do a lot of work for us. So they recycle organic matter. So while they are important, they do kill frogs at the same time. They can kill frogs. So kind of, we need them, but they do kind of hurt some frogs. And then you have your imperfect fungi. They could fit into some of the other groups, but they contaminate a lot of fruits and veggies. You've probably seen this too, just like the picture on that page. I actually have left onions in my pantry for a long time and just totally forgotten about them until I looked in a bag, and I am ashamed to say this, but I have seen an onion that has looked very similar to that because I've forgotten about them. But anyways, those are your classification systems when it comes to fungi that you just need to know in 7th grade for this chapter, okay? Moving on, I just want to go through this real quick with you. I'm not going to spend a lot of time on it, and I'm not even going to go over all of this because I'm not too concerned that you know all of it. I just wanted to make sure I showed you a diagram so that there is one in your book, but if you're reading it and you're not paying close attention, pay attention to the diagram. It's always helpful to look at something and read it at the same time. That way you can visualize it and hear it. Um, but when you think of fungi, they're very difficult sometimes to classify because what makes them unique is they cannot fit into the animal category because they have cell walls. Okay, how so that would totally remove them from the animal group. However, we can't even classify them as plants because even though plants have cell walls, what those cell walls are made out of are completely different. Plants have cell walls that are made out of cellulose, and fungi have cell walls that are made out of chitin. So, and this substance, chitin is just a substance. You can also find this, which is kind of gross, on crustaceans like lobsters and stuff, and then the bodies of certain insects like grasshoppers, things like that. Also, mushrooms cannot use photosynthesis to make their own food like plants. So there are some big differences, which is why they have to be in their own total group, okay? But if you look at this model, I just wanted to go over some of these with you. Most fungal cells have a long cells that are bound together by something called a hyphae, which it doesn't show you on this picture, but you can look at it in your book. It'll be somewhere around here on the inside. Okay, you have your cap, which is going to be the top part of this mushroom. You have your stipe, okay, which is, or the stem. We call it the stipe though, but you can call it the stem as well, which is going to connect the cap into the roots and stuff down here. And then underneath of the cap, most of the time you're going to have gills, okay? I wanted to point out to you these spores. You probably will not be able to see them, and that's totally okay. But these spores are important. If you go back and you read at the beginning, if you read at the beginning of the part of fungi in this chapter, you know that spores are very important in producing parts of the fungus, and so we definitely do need those. But so they are big time involved in reproduction, and then allow this mushroom or just any type of fungi to continue to grow and to thrive. So I definitely want you to remember that as well. And that is all we are going to do today.